It was, so when I was in high school, it was something that I talked to my counselor about wanting to go to college and figuring that out. But as a first generation college student, I really didn't know what to do or how to get started, right? So my counselor was able to help me figure out like the process of like applying, how that looks, what could be some of the majors that you choose in college. But when it turned out to actually deciding what school to apply to, my counselor wasn't that supportive because I didn't have the ACT scores that was needed. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I'm going to do fine. I really want to apply to these schools. And I ended up applying to all the schools. It was about 10 schools, and I got into all of them, even though one of my high school counselors wasn't that thrilled because they thought I wasn't going to get in, right? So that was difficult because we've had built such a great connection throughout. But I understand that they were like, you may not get in, you may be disappointed. But I was like, I have other factors, right? Like I had a really high GPA and really active in the community. I had over 350 service learning hours, so I was very active. And then I decided from all the schools that I got in that I would go to DePaul University. And I did very well there. I was able to get everything fully paid. I applied to different scholarships. I got the Pell Grant, the MAP grant. I was very active at DePaul University. And however, just the process about applying to college was difficult because I didn't know where to start, and I did get help. But my peers, some of them decided not to even go to school because they didn't even know where to get started. And I was lucky enough and connected enough that I was able to do well in college and connected with different resources. Yes, so when I was in college, I went to DePaul University here in Chicago, and I really enjoyed my time there. I was able to connect with different advisors and mentors and support systems there, as well as the TRIO Student Support Services program and their federally funded grant program by the U.S. Department of Education. And what they do, they work with students that are first in their family to go to college, first generation college students. They work with students that are low income or economically disadvantaged, and or students that have a disability. So I was in the category of a student that was low income and a student that also a first generation college student. So I was able to get different resources like academic building and workshops, cultural outings that I did and connected with the TRIO program. And as well, I also did the TRIO McNair College program, and they prepare you to think about going above college, right, and beyond, and thinking about grad school and what that may look like for you. And I also did different research opportunities. I was in research labs, and I was a community service scholar, so I did a lot of community service and connections with different communities on campus and nearby, but also just communities in Chicago. So I was very well connected and had different support systems, and I think that joining different affinity groups were very important for me while I was in college. Yeah, I think that DePaul did a great job of connecting students with different resources. I just felt like one of the things that I didn't have was more representation. I felt like I needed to see more students that were first generation college students, students that were also Latinx students that had diverse backgrounds. I ended up seeing in most of my classes, not only students, but also faculty and administrators. There weren't a lot of them that looked like me. So sometimes in my classroom, I was like 1 out of 5 Latinx students. And that was a challenge because when different conversations came or we talked about race or we talked about privilege or discrimination or equity, sometimes the conversation was like, what do the people of color think, right? Or what do the people from the Black, Indigenous, like BIPOC community think? And I'm like, I can't represent my whole community, but I really would like to have different groups of people in the conversation, but I think we needed more diversity in not only in regards to like race and ethnicity, but more diversity of thought, more diversity from people that came from different backgrounds, different ages. And I don't think that I saw that when I was in undergrad. I ended up seeing that a little bit more in grad school, but in undergrad I didn't really see that, and I felt like that's what was missing because sometimes I'm like, oh, I was only able to have In my 4 years as an undergrad student, I believe I had maybe a handful of Latinx professors, and that I think that's a missed opportunity for different institutions. And in grad school, I definitely saw more diversity, and I went to the University of Pennsylvania, and I was able to get connected with different resources and services there, and I really appreciated my time there. But I think institutions need to work on the diversity and be more inclusive. And another piece of it is making sure that they're implementing different like equity strategies to ensure that students feel included, that the policies and practices that they have in their institution are actually equitable for them and support them in their educational pathways and also in their career opportunities and their goals that they want to achieve with the different resources that they have on campus. Being a first generation college student definitely comes with challenges, especially if you're the first in the family to go to college, right? So you don't really know what the process may look like or may not understand the campus culture, right? And that is a challenge, and it takes time to understand that. But really, the biggest thing I would say is students need to get connected, right? So find resources and mentors and advisors in your affinity groups and support groups, clubs that are connected to you and your interests, and get connected with them and build that community, because you can make every space your own, but first you need to find your people. And another part of it is understanding that a lot of the colleges and universities and higher education institutions were not built for Latinx students, may not be built for the BIPOC community, the Black, Indigenous, people of color. They may not. However, you deserve to be in these spaces, and institutions need to evolve and change and make it more inclusive for you as a first generation college student, not the other way around. And institutions have a responsibility, and I think collectively as a country, as a nation, we have a moral responsibility to ensure that students have different resources and opportunities that they need. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that we have, but also is area of opportunity, right? And so for first generation college students, they need to understand that they belong in these spaces, that you're worthy, that you're enough, that you should be here. You just need to find your resources and connections and make your community your own to make sure that you get what you need, that you get the resources and services that you need to thrive, but also that you're able to complete your degree and get different career opportunities after you graduate from college, which is the goal. But just because you're the first generation college student doesn't mean that you should be the last. So make sure that you mentor and support other students and peers that also want to continue on and get an education.